I wanted to share with you some of the changes that I've made with the railroad, as well as show you what can be accomplished when you just turn off the camera and get back to model railroading. So the first change I do want to talk about is the track configuration. So what you see behind me has changed quite a bit since the last time that I gave a layout update. I've gone and added a switch here at, well, this is now Pine River Junction. And since we've added that switch, we've changed up the flow of operation. No longer does the main line come through the backdrop on the left-hand side, but it's more conducive to following your train around the layout. Let's say if you were to enter the layout room from this side, train's coming this way into Pine River Junction, have a nice easement so you don't have to jog around a peninsula to follow your train around. So that was the first big thing that we changed on the layout. Another big change that you'll see happening was the photo backdrops. I went and tore all of the photo backdrops out of the layout here and decided to hand paint them instead. So I followed a couple of techniques from Bob Ross and some other prolific backdrop painters that were out there, and I used a bunch of paints, primarily Vallejo paints, to come up with the scene that you see behind me. I didn't use craft paints because they tend to fade over time, and I wanted to make sure that the backdrop wouldn't deteriorate over time. So I used high-grade paint like Vallejo and Tamiya to create these types of backdrops. Another big change that we made was the rock cut scene. So as you can see here, I talked about having a rock cut or some sort of cut scene in here where the train would come through and have it be overgrown with trees. So I was able to do that. I used a bunch of super trees over here to essentially create the canopy, and then added in a handful of boomer old growth trees to essentially have some accent pieces in this, I guess you could call it, cut scene. I also was able to add in a rock cut scene, and I'll just show you what I've been able to do here. But this was the plaster rock molds that I had set up from the last time, the last video that I had published, giving you guys a layout update. And again, I used Tamiya paints, and I used my airbrush to create a lot of the shadows within some of the deeper parts of the rock face, and then did some highlighting again with the Vallejo paints just to accentuate those high points in the rock face and feature. And I still have to blend in some of the turf over the top of it, but that's going to be another video coming to show you guys how to add that and some water effects and those types of things on the side of the rock face. So one of the other big changes that we, I guess, imposed upon the layout here was the bog scene. So I know when the last time that you did see this was basically plaster cloth down to a masonite lake bottom. So I've gone in now and we've gone and painted the masonite hardboard here with a nice dark brown to give that, I guess, the tannins from the pine trees and stuff that kind of get into the water and tint it and stain it. So when I put my gloss coats over the top of this, it should reflect the dark brown water that you find, or the copper type water that you find in northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan. I added some, broken limbs and old trees, and we've also added rows of pine trees in the back here to essentially block how trains enter and exit the scene. So I wanted to frame in the shot as best as possible here by putting trees guarding the main line on either side, so you couldn't see the holes in the backdrop where trains enter and leave the scene. Kind of treating this like a stage on a play or in theater, right? So you have exit, stage, right over here, and then exit stage left over here. Again, you don't want to see how the players, which are the trains in this case, come onto the railroad. However, you do want to be able to essentially give that illusion that they're coming from somewhere. So again, that's why we added these rows of trees here. They're just basically background trees made from baler twine or sisal twine, and they're twisted up around brass wire armature. So Grant Eastman on the Southern Alberta lines, if you follow his technique, that's how I made those trees. Now we're starting to add a few details in as well. So you'll see here, we got a nice AMC gremlin there in the background. And then obviously the driver is coming up the access road here to the junction. I had to take a pit stop, and we've added some fascia controls here. And this particular one, you know, adds a little humor to the outhouse scene here. So you can see, and that was a mini Prince.
I got a full cargo load coming through.
That was a mini Prince and ITLA Iowa Scaled Engineering mashup. So they did a package deal. The three of those vendors come up with a little outhouse scene, and then a little sound box with it as well. So gives the layout a little added flair, I guess you could say.
Oh, thank God. Here comes the caboose.
I've gone ahead and added tortoise switch machines to all of the turnouts here in Pine River Junction and Pine River Wood Products. And I've gone ahead and added the detail of these little switch stands. So these are Lines West Milwaukee Road, prototypically accurate, I guess you could say, switch stands. They got the beautiful chevron stop sign with a little green top on it there. And it's really cool because I have them wired up to some new control panels that I've made for the layout. And one of the things that we can do is, I want to go down the diverging path. I can flip the switch, and I have turning switch stand targets as well. So that was kind of a neat feature I was able to work in over the course of the year. Now they're not 100% perfect, however, they do get the job done. So I'm pretty happy with how these switch stands turned out. And we'll flip it back to the main line here. You can see it goes right back. So yeah, we have working switch stands. Just another little detail that we decided to add here at Pine River Junction. So I wanted to talk about Pine River Wood Products and some of the changes that we've gone ahead and made here. So first things first, we actually gone from the mock-up building to a backdrop type flat building that we're going to be putting into place down here. We've gotten some of the foreground scenery done. You can see there on the far left-hand side of the screen, we have the control panel set up with the switch stands and stuff like that. And then back here, we've gone ahead and added in some scenery just to kind of close out the scene. Did a couple, or actually 3 different types of boomer trees here, essentially taking the square corner and making it look round by having the trees in there. And we got a nice log pile back here that's going to be processed into Pine River Wood Products outputs like the veneer and plywood that they do. And then we're just starting to bring in a few more elements to the building itself. So I'm playing around with the idea of throwing in some sort of elevator to assist with the wood chip operation that's going to be here, essentially to put into box cars to ship out. And then we're going to possibly be burying some of the track in here, so that way some of the vehicles and forklifts can load other types of cars like center beam flat cars and those types of things. Then you can see here We'll have the loadout, couple of loadouts for box cars cut in. Again, I still have to do the finishing work on the model here, but we are getting very, very close to completing this scene. So all the track has been glued down and is in place. It's all been weathered, and I've put the details on it, such as the joint bars and those types of things. And like I said, the scene's coming along pretty nice here. So we're almost done with the major elements of this initial shelf layout that's going to be part of many shelf layouts that is my basement empire. So what's next for the channel is that we're going to be focusing on finishing up Pine River Junction here, and then I'm also doing some of the preliminary work on composing the scene for the iron mine, which I still haven't decided on a name yet, but we are putting the cork down and getting the track arrangement all set up. So I'll be posting videos on how I'm putting all of that together and basing it off of some prototypical elements. We'll still be doing layout updates, and then we'll also be doing model building tutorials as well. So I have a handful of projects that are kit bash jobs and super detailed jobs that I'm going to be taking you all along for the ride on as well. And then I'm going to be diving into making some really high fidelity details around track as well. And we're going to be showing how you can super detail and weather and make your track look just like the real thing. If you want to learn how to lay flex track for your model railroad that will set you up nicely to do detailed little scenes like this, click on the video link that I have on screen right now, and I will see you over there.